The Force of Others, a Star Wars podcast.
Hello there, and welcome to The Force of Others. I'm Matt Boitner.
I'm Zachary Owen Turner, and today we have a huge episode because we're covering Andor episodes 4 through 9. We also have we're going to talk about the Last Order novel announcement. But before we get to all that, our show is about hearing about you and your perspective on Star Wars. So we're going to take it to the mailbag with a question from friend of the podcast, Rocky Westbrook. Rocky asks, what is your favorite lightsaber duels? Matt, question over to you.
So, a lot of good ones to choose from, but I'm gonna be spicy and just mention my favorite one.
Ooh.
To me, and people will say that I'm nuts, my favorite, not even close, hands down, Luke versus Vader in The Empire Strikes Back.
Oh, wow.
That's my favorite one.
That's
That one has the most story and the most, in my opinion, the most story and the most tension. It starts with Vader toying with him. Impressive. Most impressive. You get that kind of like twisted version of fatherly pride, you know? And then by the end of it, he's using both hands on his saber and he is trying to kill Luke. And he's like, okay, let's see if the kid can take it. And I know that he can't. Yeah. Right? I'm done playing with him. I'm going to actually pour it on. And that progression happens over the course of the lightsaber duel because Luke's like, yeah, I got it, awesome. And he's just being toyed with and he doesn't know. And I love, that's my favorite lightsaber duel. But what about you?
Wow, that's a spicy take, I would say.
I know.
But I kind of love that. For me, I was thinking about this and I was like, okay, there's Duel of the Fates, Duel of the Heroes. Duel of the Fates is so beautiful. Duel of the Heroes is cinematic, and gorgeous and death and life. And then I was thinking more and I was like, which one gets me the most hype? Is the return of Ray Park as Darth Maul for the animated Maul vs. Ahsoka. Because
cool.
It is him using the dual blade, her using the two blades, and it's so... It's the Clone Wars Duel of the Fates, basically, And I just love that they brought back Ray Park to do the mocap for it, and that fight is the best fight, I think, from all of the Clone Wars. So that's my favorite.
I love that. So spicy takes. Neither of us said Battle of the Heroes.
I mean, it's great. We don't hate it,
Yeah, love it. Well, so there's our favorite lightsaber duels. But and Rocky, let us know yours in the comments below, and you let us know yours in the comments below. If you have a question that you want us to answer, or you have a comment about whether or not what we just said was right or wrong, email it to forceofothersradio@gmail.com. After we're done with this Andor buffet, in literally today, at the time of recording, it's May 13th, the last episodes come out tonight. We're going to have a little more, we're just going to be talking about Star Wars for a bit. We'll have a gap of content. But, Zach, because I haven't seen you in 2 weeks, how was your 2 real-life weeks, and how were your 2 Star Wars weeks?
2 life weeks were really great. I had 2 of my grandmothers come up to visit me. Walking through Times Square with a 91 and an 86-year-old is very fun. I felt like a bouncer. I would walk in front of them with force hands and just be like, no, move to the side. And I can't tell you how many times I Obi-Wan 2-finger you're going that way, and they would just go, yeah, sorry, I did feel a little bit like a Jedi, but got some great time with the grandmas, and my mom came up, and so they kind of came up for a Mother's Day week. So it was really wonderful. That's why I couldn't be on the podcast last week, but thank you to Rebel Scum Con. It was really great to have you guys on, and I will talk to you guys eventually. And then this week has been good too. How Star Wars found me this week. I got a new tattoo yesterday, and I'm going through the waiver, right, that you have to sign to get a tattoo to be like, I'm of sound mind, I'm not drunk, I've eaten, I want to do this is my thing, and they had you put in your email, and I laughed out loud because the sample email they gave was hello@there.com. hello@there.com. And I was like, yeah, there we go. So I got a new tattoo.
Ooh.
And it turned out really great.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's scary, man. I like it.
Yeah. So.
Cool.
What about you?
All right.
How was your week? How has Star Wars found you?
Wonderful weeks. I think we've talked about it since then, but my academy performed Julius Caesar and, oh my gosh, I've forgotten, Seussical Kids in the same weekend. This is going back a little bit, and that was awesome. It was very, very fulfilling, very, very fun. And then just in general, had good weeks. We're kind of pseudo in my summer vacation time before summer camp, so I'm getting to chill a little bit. Always working, but getting to chill. Had a wonderful Mother's Day celebration with my parents yesterday, or Sunday.
Happy Mother's Day to your mom.
There you go. Happy Mother's Day to all of your moms.
I know she listens.
Yes, she does. She's like, I used to listen, but I like watching you guys, so I'll watch on YouTube.
Oh,
so
thanks.
Hi, Mom. Happy Mother's Day. But also something else that we did, not a Star Wars thing, but a nerdy thing. I saw the first MCU movie in the theater that I've seen in a long time. I saw
cool.
Thunderbolts.
Nice.
No spoilers. I loved it. I loved it so much more than I thought I would. I don't want to set anybody's expectations high, because part of what made it played so well was I was like, all right, I mean, I'll go watch this movie. Sure, why not? And it is the first MCU movie that I've seen in a while that is about something.
Cool.
And that sounds meaner than I mean it. I was shocked that it was about what it was about. And I absolutely loved it. It was very, very philosophical in a way that I liked. As for how Star Wars found me, it hasn't really found me so much as it's been inescapable. In the last 2 weeks, I have finished The Mask of Fear.
Nice.
I said it would take me a year. It did not. Part of it was because you've seen that I have, dramatic pause, the physical book, but I'm also an Audible member, not a sponsor of the podcast, but you could be, and I forgot that I had pre-ordered the book on Audible. And I'm a long-distance runner, and I drive about 40 minutes one way every day, pretty much, so I have lots of listening time, so I just committed to only listening to that, and I finished it. And we'll get it, but Mask of Fear, Tales of the Underworld, which we'll talk about eventually.
Oh, yeah.
And then all of this Andor stuff. There's just been, and Legacy of Vader 3, which we'll talk about eventually, and the Star Wars comic reboot, which we'll talk about eventually. There's a lot happening right now. It's a good time to be a Star Wars fan. I really, really like The Mask of Fear. We'll talk about it when Zach gets around to finishing it.
I'm very close. I have
oh, cool.
4 hours left, I think.
Cool.
It's been so content heavy for everything that has been the one that has fallen by the wayside.
I saw somebody on Twitter say that, like, well, what are we supposed to do as Star Wars fans once Andor ends? And it's like, enjoy just all of the other Star Wars that's out there and quit trying to take it all like a fire hose. But anywho, but as for another Star Wars book that just got announced, we officially have our first announced canon story after The Rise of Skywalker.
Woo.
This is the novel The Last Order. This is huge news. And the quick blurb that they put out about it: following the end of Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker, the Resistance rescues a ship full of young passengers who had been kidnapped by the First Order. As Finn and Janna set out to find the First Order officer responsible before he can endanger any more children, the two former stormtroopers must wrestle with their own complicated pasts as soldiers of the oppressive regime. Zach, what are your thoughts on that?
I'm kind of in love with it.
Yeah.
I always think that they kind of did Finn wrong in that sequel series. They really set him up to be quite the lead, and then I think they really kind of did Finn dirty, and so I'm really glad to see that he's getting a novel at least. And I like Janna as a character. I think that's really interesting. I wonder if they're gonna officially say it's Lando's daughter, because they kind of hinted at that in that movie very quickly, and I was like, what? So I'm excited to see what they do with it. I'm definitely gonna read this one. Gonna get that on the audiobooks, because that helps me, because it is hard to read on a subway. But yeah, I'm excited for it. I think it's great that we're finally exploring this, and as quicker than we ever did with actual canon. So, from the original trilogy. So, happy for it. What about you?
Yeah. I have lots of thoughts about it. My biggest this sounds stupid, but it is a YA novel, and while that term is frowned upon, young adult novel, For Star Wars, it usually works because it means the story flows and flows quickly, and it usually tells big things in a expeditious manner. The pacing is on point. And I am, too, very, very happy that we are exploring this. It's one of many things that I wish, they had explored in the film. But to build this up without tearing down Rise of Skywalker, I am excited that it's happening. My only other negative takeaway, this coupled with a quote from John Boyega that came out in an interview like yesterday, where he said he's really, really excited to get to see Daisy shine as a full-fledged Jedi, that he's looking forward to watching.
Cool.
Finn is not going to be in that movie.
Yeah.
And Finn might not be in anything anytime soon. The problem with interconnected continuity across types of media is when movies could potentially be on the table. They take so much longer to make than a novel or a comic or a game, and they are so much more expensive. They also make so much more money. So movies are the king. So while everything post-Episode 9 is in flux, you're not going to put Finn in a novel until you know he's not going to be in a movie for a while.
What if he's in Starfighter?
I'm telling you, I'll put my money down right now. There are no plans to put John Boyega in a movie.
Yeah.
I would love to be wrong, but I'm telling you there are no plans. Because for them to have the freedom to tell a story that is so essential to his character, let's actually do what we set up for 3 movies. Let's deal with the trauma of child brainwashed soldiers into stormtroopers. Let's deal with that. Yeah. To do that in a YA novel means it ain't happening in a live-action story.
Yeah.
There are no plans to do that, which is sad, but I'm happy that they're finally doing something. It's been almost 6 years since the Rise of Skywalker, and there's all kinds of nasty, gross, evil politics and discussion and debate as to why John Boyega was pseudo-sidelined.
Yeah.
And I don't even want to summon any of that outside of to acknowledge that it exists. But
it's a real thing.
It is a real thing, and if you don't know what we're talking about, just Google it. But I'm happy the story is going to be out there. I am sad that it's not going to be headlined.
Yeah.
That it's going to be in a novel that'll be on a bookshelf that people like us will read it. But there's a lot of fans that would love to see him on screen again. Mm-hmm. But as for Star Wars, yeah. Well, do you have any other thing to say about it before we move on to the next deal?
No.
Well, speaking of Star Wars that we've seen on screen and Star Wars that was incredible on screen, I'm going to hand it over to Zach.
Wow, Matt said the Andor was incredible.
I will. I have.
Clip it.
I'm going to, and I have more. I have a lot to say.
Yeah, we've taken a week off because we had such a great interview, but we are discussing Andor Season 2, Episode 4 through 9, a big chunk of episodes. We will, just to reiterate, we're talking about the first 3 episodes are Ever Been to Gorman, I Have Friends Everywhere, and What a Festive Evening. Director Ariel Kleinman, writer Beau Willimon, and... because that's a character I think that
Wilman Pock,
yeah. And then the next 3 are Messenger, Who Are You? And Welcome to the Rebellion, director Janice Metz, and writer Dan Gilroy, not Tony Gilroy. I'm going to hand it over to Matt for opening thoughts, because it might be positive.
It's going to be positive. So for the first 3 episodes, this was the focus on spying and spycraft and all kinds of real-world espionage in Star Wars. My opening thoughts were, I spy. Cool. Like, it's cool that we've kind of known that this was out there, and this is a Star Wars flavor we have never really seen outside of in, like, books and stuff. Yeah. Like, there's the Vimerati character from the Black Spire novel in the sequel trilogy era, and then there's some stuff with, like, Delta Source in the original Thrawn novels, and so there's a little bit of espionage, but it's never been highlighted to this degree. Yeah. I loved it. I thought it was awesome. And then the next 3 episodes, Storm and Gorman Massacre, I'm going to tell you right now, and I will explain later, and I don't feel bad for saying this. Who Are You? The episode featuring the Gorman Massacre is not even close, hands down, by a wide margin. My favorite episode of Star Wars television that we have ever gotten. Period.
Wow.
End of sentence. It was stunning. And I do have And people will be like, but you don't really like Andor. And I'm like, that's not really true. I've been specific and honest and vocal and consistent with what I don't like about Andor. And this episode didn't do those things. This episode was incredible. And I'll talk more about it later.
Yeah.
But what about your opening thoughts on 6 episodes of Andor?
The first 3 I really liked. I mean, like you said, we really focused on the spycraft. I had more dislikes in those first 3 than I did the next 3. It did feel like it kind of fell into the Andor trope of, okay, we're going to set up things and set up things and set up things. And if this was a whole season, holy crap, I'd be so bored. I have a couple of big dislikes, actually, with that first 3 episodes. But the next 3 episodes, holy crap. Faster, more intense, everything's happening. Very few dislikes, lots of likes. I actually liked Welcome to the Rebellion more than Who Are You?
Yeah, I mean.
Sure. So, I think some amazing speeches and just character moments, and everything happened at a pace where you're like, okay, cool, this is Star Wars, we're going. Like, yes, you can have great character moments, but you can also move the story along and really cook, and I felt like those last 3 really cooked. So yeah, let's get into the likes. We'll start with episodes 4 through 6, and then we'll go into 7 through 9, and then at the very end we'll do our discussion questions. So if you don't want to hear about what we like or dislike, just skip to there and you can hear about our fun discussions. So
yeah,
starting with you, Matt.
So episodes 4 through 6, silly like that'll hit home for Zach. Where Bix and Cassian go shopping. Confirmed, bodegas exist in Star Wars, and I love that. And now I just want to know if they got a chopped cheese, and if that's something that exists. I like the slow reveal as to why Cassian killed whoever he killed. Yeah. Apparently, that is the story that I mentioned on the previous episode of the podcast. That's what Diego Luna and Adria Arjona were talking about. That's the one story that Tony Gilroy was most upset that they didn't get to put in this season with condensing 5 years of stuff. Go ahead.
Is that where she's like, you killed that boy for me?
Yeah.
Because that's one of my discussion questions later. It's like, what boy?
Well, yeah, but it matters that it was her losing faith with the cause, right? Mm-hmm. And you had to do that and whatever else. I thought it was very funny. The one time the Imperials were playing video games, it looked like they were playing Episode 1 Racer. Credit where credit's due. And again, why has it not been like this before? But there are aliens all over all 6 of these episodes.
Yeah.
When they're on Coruscant, there's actually aliens everywhere, and I was like, yes, just do that.
They took the feedback and they worked on it.
And then I get into my thing that I said when we talked about the first 3. It's like, well, okay, stick to your guns. Like, I'm gonna acknowledge that I like this while also being bitter that it wasn't there before. And if it was just okay, we'll give you what you want, then why'd you do it in the first place? Moving on. Dakar. Love that. Love that Dakar was a former Saw Gerrera base. If you don't know, Dakar is the planet the Resistance is on in Episode 7. Mm-hmm. I like that Willman has become an expert on fuel stealing. I don't get how. I don't get if it's a connection to his dad, who was a mechanic, but either way, he's an expert on fuel stealing now. That's true. Really happy that they cut away after Dedra says to Cyril, turn out the lights. When the camera lingered on the dark, I thought we were going to watch them make out, and that I did not want to see these 2 characters do that. Just something about them. I was like, I'm okay. Cassian meeting the rebel in the cafe on Gorman. Great scene, great work from Diego Luna taking like the spy mask off and on. And so do you think, jumping ahead to do a discussion question, but I'm going to ask it, do you think Cassian was trained in that by Luthen?
I think so, because it's very Luthen.
Yeah.
It's very...
Yeah.
The thing that he does.
And then back into, scowly Cassian.
Yeah.
Yes. Love that. I love Bix's TV show. That trash TV exists in Star Wars, and the costumes are very similar to the holiday special. I thought that was hilarious.
Yep.
Cassian's giving Bix his name, Varian Sky, and he throws the jacket. I thought that was hilarious. Cassian and Luthen's argument about protecting Bix and how you actually protect her and how you don't, and Cassian having her best interests at heart but also being overprotective. Yeah. I love that whole thing. The Imperial Pledge of Allegiance.
Oh,
so
it's
cool.
one of my favorite things.
So cool.
Yeah.
Sidebar. What is this Masamita slander? Who's this Oathbreaker? Where's
Oath
Masamita?
Keeper
Oathkeeper, my bad.
Yeah.
Where's Masamita?
I don't need him. This guy's so much cooler. Also, that voice.
Yeah.
I literally
awesome.
wrote down the pledge. I was like, that's cool.
Yeah. Now we get into the party. Krennic's surprise appearance. I mentioned this in our short that like these episodes were the kind of spycraft where the worst person in the galaxy to hear the conversation that you're having is 2 feet over there. And if he hears you, everything falls apart. And it was a nice little touch. The music goes out as soon as he appears. And then Mon Mothma versus Krennic in an argument. It felt like, Friday night fights. This is the headlining of the title card fight. Let's go. Let's have more of these debates. And just that whole scene was incredible. And then the last moment of these 3 episodes, the death of Dr. Gorst, Bix's revenge.
Yeah.
I do also want to say, I get iffy on the whole redemptive violence yields catharsis stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like, in reality, I'm not trying to sit here and be morally superior in that she just should have forgiven him, but doesn't revenge just kind of deepen traumatic wounds?
Yeah, usually.
It just spreads pain. And you could tell it was kind of a, like, now they're walking away like cool badasses. And it's like, I mean, I'm not trying to say that guy didn't deserve it, but
100% he deserved it.
To have the arc be about Bix overcoming trauma and overcoming drug addiction, to then never mention it again after she murders the guy that tortured her, that kind of implies that's how she got over it. And I think that's odd. Mm-hmm. So I guess that was kind of a dislike. Sorry. But Zach, what are your likes for these first 3 episodes?
Yeah, I really, I liked a lot of these episodes. The spider messenger toy being a spy thing, I thought that was really cool. Where he like pulled out the carapace and there was a thing in there. I really liked that. I loved all of the little spy things, like we're talking in code a lot these episodes. I loved the pod racing. I loved that there was just a little nod to pod racing, and I was like, yes, awesome. This is the first time we start to see aliens in these episodes, the alien senators. I was like, hey, look at that, full on aliens. I love Gorman. I love the design of Gorman. It's very Art Nouveau. It's very French. There's French and German that they're speaking. I absolutely love the Gimli-esque actor.
Lazine is the character.
Lazine, yeah. Who's just like, he's such a like brick house, and just, I love that guy. Every time he's on screen, I'm like, what are you doing? You're doing great work. Everything you're doing, yes. I love the mention of Tarkin. And the first Gorman massacre.
Yes.
So, because for me, it was like, oh, was that the Gorman massacre? Have we already seen it? Because there was a first Gorman massacre, which is Tarkin landing his ship on a group of people, which is just so evil. And then there's the real Gorman massacre. And I love Willman being with Saw Gerrera. It makes sense that he's the kid who created a pipe bomb. That kid is gonna end up with the guy who's like, yeah, no, let's blow up. Sorry, let's blow up the Empire. Episode 5, I love Bon. He was the creepy punk rock alien at the very beginning of the episode when Cassian's trying to get on the ship. He like comes out and he has like weird like spikes and like he's like really pale and blue.
I missed this completely.
When he like walks in and he's like, I have friends everywhere, and she's kind of like,
oh yeah.
And he's the guy like comes out. I really liked him. I liked the security ISB audit. I think that's really fun. Cyril really shines through in these 6 episodes. He's doing really good. The actor's doing great work all the time, but the character's doing interesting work and is actually driving the story rather than just kind of being a part of it. So much so that I was like, wait, did they break up? Oh no. Okay, cool, great. But then, yes, but that's the next 3 episodes. I loved Andor, seeing Andor be proficient at his job. Him being like, you don't know who I am. Why are you here? I could have killed you. I could be an ISB plan. I could be this. You're doing stupid. You're being stupid. And him being like, Luthen, this is not the people. Like, you shouldn't. Like, they're not ready, and him actually he shows leadership and proficiency in these 6 episodes that I really, really enjoy. And I love Saw Gerrera being crazy but inspiring. When he's talking about he's like, this is breathe it in, you're here, wake up, like fight, you have to fight, this is it. And he influences Williman to come to his side. I thought that was so interesting, because you're like, oh yeah, no, they have to have a reason to follow this guy, because everything else we've seen is him just being like, yeah, I'm a little weird crazy old man who wants to, but this time I was like, oh, I get it. I get what he wants. I get where he's coming from, and it added so much. That little speech added so much to the character for me that I was like, okay, I get Saw Gerrera now. Like, it never, the Clone Wars and the TV never combined for me in a way that this episode combined them. So I really, really like that. Episode 6, I love that Andor has more morals than Luthen. And Luthen double playing Andor with Vel, I thought was really interesting. He'd be like, fine, you don't want to do it? I'll send another person to do it. Sorry.
Whatever.
Dr. Gorse getting his own facility. Oathkeeper, again, for me. Upon my life and honor, for the peace and bounty of all beings, my full allegiance, a galaxy of worlds, a galaxy assembled, an empire. Wow.
Dope. So
crazy,
cool.
Scary, cool. And then lastly, I love the Krennic, like you said, the Krennic Mon Mothma back and forth of that episode was a highlight. All while having Clea in the back being like, Lonnie, you're gonna frickin' do this, otherwise we're both screwed.
Move to your left.
Cutting her hand to get it out. Oh, and the tension. There was so good tension there that I feel like the series hasn't had up until this point. But it wasn't tension of like, oh, we have to blow this thing up. It was just like, if I don't do this right now, we're all caught. And those were my likes. What are your dislikes?
So, surprising no one that Gorman likes spiders. They deserved the massacre. No, I'm kidding. I don't mean that at all. I wept.
You don't want to be on that side.
I wept for that entire sequence. But the spiders, and sidebar, did we really need Cyril to roll a spider toy completely up to the camera?
I like that it made the sound.
I did. What? No,
it
absolutely
was like,
not.
click, click, click,
Yeah, gross, terrible. Very, very happy that it had like an ant head and not a spider head, or I would have gone, ah! Is exactly what would have happened. I threw my head away. Hopefully I didn't blow out the mic. But it's really funny, and I'm so happy we feel differently about this. Dislike? Saw Gerrera.
Ooh, interesting.
I found him crazy for the sake of crazy in these episodes. It's also interesting, and worth pointing out, canonically, he appears a year after this conversation on Rebels. And he is not unhinged crazy like he is here. It's on Geonosis. He's definitely like focused, and he cuts corners, and he's a little vile, but he's not mad dog crazy talking about Rido, my sister, breathe it in, you're here, you're ready to fight. What does he say? Revolution is not for the sane. Because I honestly found that whole sequence a little more pretentious than scary, because Wilman doesn't join him. Wilman, after breathing in Rhydonium, is, the next time we see him, he's the exact same guy. He's the exact same guy. If anything, what I think they were trying to say, and this is the one arc that I would have appreciated, because they ultimately chose to have a dope monologue instead of explain what happened to Wilman, but what I think they were trying to show was Wilman is still consumed by hatred. And he sees what happens when you are consumed by hate. You become a crazy, drug-addicted, like, just lunatic. And so he breathes it in and then runs and is trying to cleanse himself in the rain, but it just looked like he was transitioning into a monster. But then the next time you see him, he's completely fine and level-headed and like, hey, we gotta go kill Dedra. She sucks. Let's go to Gorman and kill her. Yeah. Like, yeah, you could argue that's a little unhinged, but he's much more balanced. And so I think that's the one thing that either don't do this monologue or do that in the first scene with Saw, so that you can set up Wilman's change. I found it to be more pretentious than scary. Breathe in the drugs and you'll become like me. I was like, yeah, right. I don't know. But I love that you loved it because I get to hear another side. I'm
Yeah.
happy it worked for you. To me, I thought it was a little silly. But I'm curious. We know Saw is in the last arc. We know that he is because there's a shot of the trailer of him on Jeddah. So he's going to show up again. I'm curious what they do. Maybe they will do what I just talked about in the episodes that come out tonight. We didn't even talk about it. I didn't buy Cinta's breakdown leading into the kiss with Belle. I thought it telegraphed she was about to die, and I thought it did not fit the character.
Yeah.
I understand you want to show the human side of who to this point, a character that has been a soulless killing machine, but it was so severe of a change that I was like, oh, so she's dead. Like, we're starting the countdown now. And then her death in general. It is consistent with this show. The show is about the fog of war, the randomness of life, and how random things happen that we have to apply meaning to, but I will still pass. If it works for you, awesome. I thought that her death was completely pointless, and I get that that's the idea, but it really, really took me out of it in a way that the just as pointless death in the Gorman massacre didn't. Like, that bothered me, but that moved me. This was like, it almost feels like you're putting me at arm's length. Like, I don't care. And I don't care about Vel's, like, her speech was good to the guy that killed her. But, like, nothing came of it at all. Yeah. Outside of that guy is a better fighter the next time we see him. So, I just didn't get it. I mean, he takes out K2SO.
That's true.
With a truck. And he's gunning down stormtroopers and stuff. So, I don't know. It didn't work for me. If it worked for you, great. I'm talking not just to Zach, to any listeners, but it did not work for me. But them's my dislikes. And so, Zach, dislikes for episodes 4 through 6.
Yeah, again, my dislikes, a lot of my dislikes come with I feel like they just fumble the usage of Bix as a character. And I get what they're trying to do. I get that, like, trauma leads to substance abuse and then overcoming. But again, I really hate the substance abuse thing. And also that Cassian doesn't, like, nobody helps her. Like, Luthen checks in on her, but nobody really helps her except for Luthen giving her an option to get revenge. And then it's all fine. So I feel like they just fumbled I don't know if it would have been better in a whole season or two, but I feel like they just constantly fumble the bag when writing that character. Not the actress. She does fantastic work, consistent, one of the best actors in the show. They're just fumbling the character for me. I don't, again, it comes with the same with the sexual assault. It's like, it just doesn't feel like it was executed well enough for me. And I don't, like, we've known that substance abuse is in Star Wars the whole time. Like, you wanna smoke some death sticks, but I don't know. It just felt disingenuous almost. I don't know. So that's one big one. Again, Luthen being like, yeah, take drugs, do it. Like, he almost encourages it, and you're like, what? Like, this is one of your top agents, and you're kind of, like...
Well, no, isn't he the one that says that...
He does say be careful about it, but he also doesn't stop her.
But doesn't he say, I get it, it makes the nightmares go away, but they come back worse when you stop?
He does. So he doesn't... He's not, like... I don't know. Anyways, that's when...
Sure.
We get Cereal again. Cereal, but it's his mom this time. I literally went,
did she eat cereal? She ate cereal and I missed it?
I think when he visits her, they're eating cereal again.
Well, I'm happy I missed it.
Well, they doubled down on what they wanted, so maybe you're happy about it.
There you go.
I didn't like the paparazzi droid when they go into the orchestra and all that. I love that the orchestra was there, but there was like a weird like paparazzi droid that was taking a bunch of pictures. I was like, I don't know. It was just like, okay, cool. It's just a small thing design-wise that I was like, eh. And then my biggest dislike is fumbling of another character, which is Cinta. I feel like they really fumbled the bag, and maybe it's just the cutting down a season into 3 episodes, but like, you showed her in the first arc, so you could have started something there, but they didn't. They didn't start the regret there. They just kind of, she shows up and then she's regretful, and then they make up, and then she's killed, and you're like, oh, already? Like, we just got her back. What? I literally put, really kill Cinta already? Jesus was my note. And it was not, it didn't feel meaningful because we don't see the results. Like, yes, like you said, he's a better fighter, but we don't see anything come of it. And I know not every death in a war is supposed to be meaningful, but a character that we have come to, like, know should have a meaningful death. Or, like, it should hit harder. I don't know. It felt like a fumble again. It was like, okay, cool, like, we need to kill this character to give Vel something, motivation to leave Luthen. But yeah, she gets shot by that guy being stupid. You know, like, it would still be meaningful if it's a stormtrooper, you know? And yes, she doesn't get the cool speech of being like, let this mold you, but it could still have it be his fault without him killing her. And I think it would have hit a little harder. Anyway, those are my dislikes.
Yeah. Well, we had a lot of the same ones. I'm most curious about the Saw Gerrera thing, and I'm really, really hoping that we have more to talk about this time next week. Mm-hmm. But, so moving into likes for episodes 6 through 9. Yeah. Well, you look like you had something to say. You're right, 7 through 9. For what I've already said, episode 8 is my favorite episode of Star Wars live action ever. And Zach's, well, I don't know that you said it was your favorite ever, episode 9. But either way, whatever. Yeah. Likes. Yavin. Let's go. At the end of the day, there are elements. Yes, there are. Well, I have a dislike there about that, but I'm happy to see Yavin as what we know Yavin to be. I think that's awesome, and there's times that it is okay to acknowledge when Star Wars just does something that you've been watching your whole life that has been real to you since you were like 4 years old. And it's like, oh, I know that place. All of the Dedra and Cyril stuff. Literally all of it. Cyril's line, for what? What have I accomplished? And she kisses him. I was like, aw. And then everything that happens later, it's like, oh no. The Gorman Senator, I have a lot of likes. Sorry, guys, and I'm going to list, there's a lot. But the Gorman Senator, they don't even bother to lie badly anymore. I suppose that's the final humiliation, which, yep. And then Lazine's first dope line, where the first time I was like, I love him. I love him. I want more of him, less of everything else. We are the Gore. If they take that from us, what is worth saving?
Yeah.
This is why I like the Galactic Civil War, this whole era. And just that the Empire's willingness to stamp out individuality and to stamp out individual cultures. They don't care. And what the rebellion is fighting for is the ability to have, not just to be free, because those words are used so much that people don't even know what it means anymore. Their ability to be individuals, their ability to have unique culture. And I loved, he's like, we are fighting for our culture. If we're not fighting for that, then what's the point, right? But the Union guy turning the hateful, aggressive chant into a hymn of home when we get into the Gorman Plaza, that's what this should be. Yeah. And it was absolutely beautiful, and that was when I started crying in that sequence, but we'll get the rest there later. Moving back, the Force Healer on Yavin. Amazing. This is how it would feel to be in contact with a Jedi when you're a normal person.
Yeah.
Incredible clarity of writing. Just incredible clarity, where he's just like, and there's just enough, like, Bix puts ointment on him earlier so that it might not be the Force. We know it's the Force, but that he's able to go, it might not have been, and just her ability to touch him once and see the entirety of his future and his past and just know him.
Yeah.
Right? And then Bix's line, let it in, it can only be good. There's no other reason. Resistance is real. The enemy is real. There are parts of your psyche that are trying to keep you from what... there are parts of your psyche that are trying to keep you from the things that you need to be doing. And I really, really appreciated that. And then getting into the big one, the Gorman Massacre is a top 5 Star Wars moment for me. I thought it was haunting in every way. Yeah. In absolutely every way. The callback to season 1, that it's just something they say to each other. Ferrex, Stone and Sky.
Yeah, I really
just remembering
like that.
where they're from. It was a chant in the last episode of season 1, and now it's just remember who we are, remember where we're from. The former bellhop, that he's now become a doorman, and that he recognizes Cassian, and that's what real rebellion is, and that he gives him the line that then, because that Cassian says to Jyn in Rogue One, that has now just become something that everybody has run with in a way that this crystallizes what Star Wars is. Rebellions are built on hope. Right? I love that. Silly like. I've had a lot of serious ones. Silly one. That is a lot of blasters Cassian has in his suitcase, and I thought that was cool.
It's not a lot. It's one.
It's all one, but it
Yeah.
also looked like they might all be able to function on their own, but then if he puts them together, it's like a super Nerf gun that like we had when we were kids. And it can also be its own guns. That's the same thing, you know.
It's just such a... That's a good call. That's a good callback.
Cyril Karn, the sympathetic character that also completely maintains his villain status.
Yeah.
Because you're with him as you're seeing him realize that he's being used on all sides. You're seeing him realize slowly that everything he's fought for is a lie. And then you're like, oh no, cool, he's choking Dedra. He's still a villain. Cool. I can still feel completely okay with hating him. Yeah. Cool. I absolutely love it. And then good writing reveals who characters really are when they are at their breaking point.
Yeah.
And as he's standing there in slow motion, seeing everything he has ever believed in literally crumble into chaos and violence, what I get out of this moment is, instead of acknowledging that he needs to be different and that he needs to change, he sees his nemesis. And he sees someone else that he can blame all of this on. And instead of doing the work on himself, he's going to try to kill Cassian Andor. And then Cassian doesn't even know who he is. Absolutely brutal for Cyril to realize in his last moment that he lived pathetically and pointlessly. And I think he's one of my favorite character arcs in Star Wars. I loved it. Okay.
And a brutal death.
Yeah, oh, man. Yeah. Side dislike. Actually, it's not really a dislike. It's a... Why did I write side dislike? I would say avoided dislike. Very, very happy that the Empire ignited the Gorman Massacre. Longtime listeners will know that my speculation that I was terrified of was that Luthien was going to set up Cassian to ignite the massacre, because Luthien was going to want it to happen. So happy that we made it, that the Empire did it.
And
I was
crazy
absolutely
that the
terrified.
Empire killed a stormtrooper first.
Yep. And as soon as I was watching it, the guy had, crosshairs in on the crowd, on the civilians, moved it to an Imperial Army trooper, and I was, oh my God, no way. That makes sense. That's exactly what they would do.
Yeah.
Whew, absolutely terrifying. And it's not like nothing like that happens, but anyway, in real life. But anyway, the KX droids. Holy crap, so scary.
Scary.
So scary.
So scary.
And then if you thought I was crying before, Dreena's broadcast at the end of that episode. Whew. Is there no one who can help us? I was just like, oh my gosh, if you have any faith left in truth, mark this and pass it on. And then jumping into the next episode, just this whole episode just felt like, I'm going to cuss, a series of yes. Like, starting out with Mon Mothma's line where Bail's just like, history is written by the victors, and she says they haven't won yet. And I was like, let's go. Clea's grow-up speech to Cassian when he's like, I'm done. And she's like, it turd. The Luthen and Mon Mothma scene where Mon is just so afraid of him. And the reveal that Erskine works for Luthen. Side kind of continuity thing. I thought it was cool that everything that Bail and the other senator had to do to get Mon the ability to talk had to deal with working around the chair. And that ties back to Star Wars Episode 1. The chair recognizes the senator from Naboo. I don't know if that's how the real world Senate works, but I liked that they acknowledged and kept it consistent in Star Wars. And then the build-up to Mon's speech. Immediately the Imp's trying to shut it down, all that stuff. And then just Mon's speech. I wept.
Top speech in Star Wars for me.
It broke me, and I cried a lot.
Yeah.
And there will be people that'll make fun of me for that, and I don't care. It was incredible and relatable. And that's all that I'm going to say about all of that. Mm-hmm. But Zach, after I monologued for about 15 minutes, what are your likes on these 3 episodes?
I mean, all of it.
Yeah, well, there you go.
I have very few dislikes, but holy crap, what are 3 episodes? Yavin, the silly arc in the beginning of the first 3 episodes finally paying off for Yavin. Yeah. I was like, oh, great, cool. And then I literally went, oh, dang, Yavin is in full swing. I loved Andor and Luthen being at odds because in my mind, Andor was going to become Luthen, and I feel like he's not. Yeah, and I really like that. Will being more radical is pretty cool. Dedra being such a threat to the Ferrix crew really feels like a payoff. Where they're like, no, she's the one that did this to us. We're going after her because like it felt more personal rather than like, yeah, there's an Imperial running this thing that we've found and we're going to kill them. The minutia of the ISB between Dedra and Partagast of being like, oh, they have weapons, and he's like, yeah, we're counting on it.
Yeah,
you know, like Dedra almost has a heart in these episodes, which is really cool. It's cool to see the Imperial go, no, this is bad. If I don't do it, I'm dead, and I don't get a promotion, and my life is over. No, we shouldn't do this. No, I kind of have to, you know. I love Mon Mothma knowing how to handle her driver. You know, just like the whole time she's like, no, he's an ISP plant. I know what to say, what not to say. Like, just like Mothma actually being good at rebelling and like her almost being a spy is very cool. I loved seeing the Gorman senator. I have a question for you later for the discussions, but I'll keep that. I think his whole just like some of his speeches are just heartbreaking, you know. And back to the Force healer. I love that the Force is scary. To Andor's like, no. It's felt very much like, no, that's a crazy kooky magician, and I don't do that stuff, you know. But that whole thing, I really loved the mystic. It felt mystic, and it felt very much like a cult almost, and that was really cool to see the Force from an outside perspective. I love that we finally see Andor being a good pilot, because he's a great pilot in Rogue One, and in the previous arc he was an okay pilot, but coming in on that U-wing into Gorman and him like, you know, just like skirting the tree line, really cool to see him be a good pilot. I love that Draven's there. Colonel Draven from Rogue One is really cool. I literally texted Mac. I was like, Blue Leader, and I was like, oh wait, it's not Blue Leader. We're hoping for Blue Leader next week.
I hope we get that British mustached pilot tonight. We'll see.
I loved Vel not being a puppet of Luthen anymore. I love seeing everyone's kind of disillusionment with Luthen, being like, nah, like this is not the way. And I loved the guy remembering Cassian, the doorman, being the head now, and being like, hey, she will report it. You have about 24 hours. You know, like him being in on the rebellion is really cool. The next episode, I love seeing that it's a trap. Like I love the French Revolutionary being like, no, we can't go there. This is a trap. They're going to kill us all, and he was right. Cyril has a backbone in this, and he's for me, I was like, oh, Cyril's lawful evil.
Always has been
for D&D terms. He's like, no, this is the right. Like, I have this is the law, and we're supposed to follow it. And when it starts to go away from that, and he's like, oh no, what are we doing here? What are we? You know, we're going home as heroes. Cyril from Dedra, I thought is really beautiful. The singing got me too. It was just. So heartfelt, and that felt like true rebellion in Star Wars. It felt that we're not angry, we're not yelling, we're not shooting, we're singing and we're standing and we're being like, we're here. The Trigger Empire guy is so creepy and good with his scar and him being like, you're the finger, I'm the trigger, you have to be here. He does a really good job at being evil. And then I just have to read my notes for this. Damn, Cyril and Andor fight with the chair. Who are you? Because there's one point where he picks up a chair, and that's such a wrestling move. Be like, yeah, I'm gonna take the chair. That whole fight is brutal. And as a person who does stage combat and enjoys seeing fights on screen, I was like, yes, that is such a cool fight. And then the beautiful, who are you? And just seeing the regret in his eyes, and then dead. I was like, whoa. That's a great moment.
And the guy that shot him, just more and more irony, more tragedy, was the one that was championing nonviolence, whose daughter just got killed because of everything Cyril did. Okay, anyway, sorry, I'll shut up.
It's such a good moment. And I loved Dedra regretting.
Oh,
she was being a person. We've seen it from the trailer. Everybody's like, that's Vader force stroking her. No, it's her literally being like, I have to get out of this. I'm losing it, you know? And then episode 9, I have so few things written down because I was just so captivated by the screen. I couldn't look away to write notes. Bail Organa's speech at the beginning, fantastic. I have to buy us more time. I have to stay here and rebel from the inside. Amazing. I have, holy crap, so much. The whole escape and the speech. Wow. Mothma's speech is one of the best speeches in Star Wars. It is poignant not just in Star Wars but in real life. There is genocide happening now in many different parts of the world. If you don't know it, look it up. I'm not gonna do the just look it up. There's actual genocide happening now. Her speech is relevant now more than ever, and is powerful. On a happy note, you get the guy from One Way Out. Bill's like, whose gun is this? And he's like, that's mine. And you're like, oh, cool, he made it from One Way Out to Rogue One. I liked just that tiny little character through line. I loved Mothma being like, I'm not sure how to thank you, of her like really realizing that Andor is the one that saves her. And I loved the hero's journey refusal of the call for Andor. He's like, I'm not going to do this. I'm done. Like, I'm not a leader. I'm done rebelling. I've done it for years. And then Bix forces him to do it. And then lastly, K2. What a beautiful birth moment to be like, if I've what does he say? If I've
offended you, I apologize. If not, I would appreciate you pointing that elsewhere.
Yeah, I loved that. I love that. That's the opening line for K2. But yeah, them's my likes. Do you have any dislikes, Matt? I have
3.
A few. Okay.
I literally only have 3, and the first one's silly. Why no subtitles when Cass is spying on the stormtroopers? You know it's Whitwer and David Collins just making up some stuff. Yeah. You know it is. So give us that. Give us the goodness.
Yeah.
But then
these TK5s aren't as good as the TK4s.
Exactly. So tying into the moment you just talked about, I don't like Bix leaving. It felt like they didn't want to kill her off, which I absolutely appreciate.
Yes.
But I don't buy her leaving the rebellion because her boy is better at fighting than she is. I thought that's leaving for a plot reason, not a character reason. To be perfectly honest, their entire relationship, I've never really seen... Like they're a couple because we're told they're a couple. You know what I mean? And
we have some really nice moments in the first 3 of them dancing and
there are a couple nice moments in there, but like I don't see their love as what defines Cassian. You know what I mean? Or what defines Bix, which is cool. They're individuals, but I don't buy it as this big heartbreaking thing that spurns him on to be a rebel. It felt like them, well, we don't want to kill her off because then we'll get accused of getting fridged, but she can't be there because she's not in the next one, so we'll just have her choose to leave. And I thought it was lame, honestly. And I think the whole character, kind of what you said earlier, now that I'm assuming this is the end of her story, who knows? She might show up tonight. But I don't really like the Bix story. I feel like she was there to personify the Empire traumatizing people, and then we never really got a resolution on that because she chooses to leave so that the man can go fight.
Yeah, I mean it's
because
full
of that she's not in the story
you know?
anymore, and I just don't like that.
Yeah.
I thought it was quite lame. I'm not saying she should have died, but you could have done self-sacrifice in a way that it just didn't work for me. Bottom line. And I didn't like the line that Erskine says, Gold Squadron's going to rescue her. They want to rewrite the story. Dan Gilroy gave an interview where he's like, do I really have to stick to this effing speech from the cartoon? I don't want to stick to a cartoon.
It's
sorry,
a good speech
man.
in the cartoon too. I rewatched it.
It's a perfectly solid speech in the cartoon, but just they want to rewrite the story. To me, I don't know. I might cut this out, but it feels like a needless swipe at interconnected continuity. To which it's like, because no, they're not rewriting the story. They're getting a squadron of people to get her off planet so that they can get her to a rallying point for the rebellion. That's not rewriting the story. That's starting the Rebel Alliance. I thought that was odd. And for Cassian to not want to watch the speech because he's like, I've heard her before. It felt like they were trying to frame Cassian as this tragic hero that's forgotten by the galaxy, when it's like, I don't understand why you can't have both. You needed a covert op to get her out of the Senate, and now you probably need a squadron of people to get her to the rallying point for the Rebel Alliance. I don't understand adding the swipe of they want to rewrite the story. That was a big dislike.
Especially when we got the moment from before where Bale's like, yeah, Victor's write the story, and she's like, they haven't won yet. It's like, it felt weird.
And it just, to make that episode of Rebels, to even imply that it's political nonsense from the Rebel Alliance instead of, you got her here, we got another team that's going to take her farther.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
Yeah.
I just thought it was weird. But I only had 3 dislikes. Zach, what are your dislikes for these 3 dope episodes?
Yeah, the first episode, it's not really a dislike, but it made me feel icky about the young stormtroopers. Like, these men, he's like, there's not a man among them. So they're killing, like, 18-year-olds. Like, it really, like, I'd rather them be, like, an elite squad, you know, of death troopers of, like, we're here for the cause, not like, yeah, we picked these guys up off the street, and now we're gonna kill them.
Well, I think
which I
just
get why, but sorry, go ahead.
No. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Finish your thought.
I get why they're like showing the evil of the Empire and all that, but it just in my heart made me feel icky, which means that they did a good job. But
I think it's even what I jump to in that they're so young. They purposely got young trigger happy guys that will lose their cool and start shooting when things go down, right? Because they're talking about the black armored like just army troopers, right? Yeah, the mud scuffers or whatever. So they put young, inexperienced, scared, trigger happy kids out there so that people will start shooting.
Yeah,
that's what I got out of it. But go ahead, sorry.
True. The rebellions are built on hope. I didn't like initially, but after your talk about it, I actually like now. So you have convinced me there. I thought it was Jin's original idea, not Cassian's. So that through line helped me. I don't like Cyril choking Dedra. I know we need to see that he's evil and all that, but you could have done it without like a full-on choke. Like I felt like it was a violence that we didn't fully need. But yeah, and then my last 2, no mention of the Ghost or the Ghost crew, except for like we're gonna rewrite the thing. But like it would be cool to like have like a mention of their specific squadron, unless I missed it.
Well, to be fair, because with that episode, Ghost is given the Ghost crew is given the mission to rendezvous with a rebel ship that needs to refuel. They're not there to rescue Mon. Gold Squadron is, and then they get attacked, something goes wrong, and they have to bring Mon Mothma onto the Ghost.
Gotcha.
And so that they weren't necessarily tasked with doing that.
Okay.
So I did like that specifically. But they mention that it's Gold Squadron. It's the Y-Wings that that rescue her.
Yeah.
So,
and then my last big dislike is Bix leaving. Again, it feels like a fumble of the character. I feel like she could have convinced him to stay and her stay too, because she was part of the rebellion before he was. You know, like again, it felt like it felt like a fridging of her. in a way, it's just like, I don't know. Again, I feel like they just fumbled that character in general. Um, it's a beautiful speech, and it is poignant. But I also, he like goes to find her on the transport, and then immediately goes to the K2 droid, and they're just like, it needed a more of a space. It needed a gap for me. It might have been part of the way it was shot, but it's like, oh yeah, I lost my girlfriend, but here's my platonic life partner now. Like, like it felt a little cheeky in a way. But again, I think there's a world where you have her stay and convince him to stay by showing him how committed to the cause she is.
Yeah.
And that's what I wanted to see.
Yeah.
I don't need her to die. Although, and then also it feels weird to have him fall in love with Jin a year later after her being around for so long. And I don't know, like, she's still out there, at this point, unless we see in the next 3 episodes that she dies. But then it's even worse. It's like, oh yeah, my girlfriend just died, and hello, Jin. So
Diego Luna said in an interview recently that he never saw the relationship between him and Jin as romantic.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that helps me.
I think it could be because Rogue One was such a, not necessarily troubled, but such a
It's true, they don't kiss at the end, they just hug.
Yeah, and it's such a pieced together movie because Gareth Edwards made a movie and then they made another movie and kind of put them together, right? And in the original version, or one of the original versions of Rogue One, Cassian and Jyn got married at the end.
Oh.
So the one thing that is romantic is, in my mind, is when they're in the elevator after sending up the Death Star plans. They're just kind of staring at each other. Mm-hmm. But I've seen, over the years, I've seen lots of Lucasfilm people say that that's two people finding peace with death in each other. And like, hey, we did it. We did a good thing. It doesn't necessarily have to be romantic.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It was them keeping the door open, and then Diego was like, yeah, I never saw it that way. So.
Well, maybe I need to rewatch that movie after this and see.
When we will.
Line. Yeah.
But when you watch it, because I've had it on in the background while I'm actually being productive, right? But you can read it either way. They play it very straight down the middle for me. Nice. But so discussion points for these 6 episodes. So just some quick discussion points slash things I wanted to talk about for the first 3. I see. It's funny. You gave me an answer because I was gonna say, if Saw Gerrera is this crazy, why do so many follow him? But it's because I think you kind of helped me with this. He has clarity in his insanity. I am crazy, and that's what's gonna get the job done. So come with me if you want to fight. Yeah. Go with Mon and the rebels if you want to be diplomatic and like cheerful.
He's like the opposite of a spy. He's a terrorist. I mean, he fully is.
Yes.
But
absolutely.
Yeah.
I just thought this is fun. That is absolutely Whitwer's voice giving Cassian his cover identity in I think that's the middle episode of the 3, or it might be the first one of the. I don't remember. But it's like, you're an art dealer from whatever. It's Sam Witwer.
Cool.
The rebel Saw killed that Willman was training.
Mm-hmm.
Did he plant that bug on him, or was he really a spy, or was it not even a bug? He was just like, look, he's a spy, and then Tubes holds up the thing, here's the proof.
Yeah, it felt very, have you watched Black Sails?
Yes.
It felt very like, he had the pages on him the whole time,
Yeah. But we don't see him plant them.
Tubes could have had it in his hand.
Yeah, it feels like you're not supposed to know because Saw is crazy and that's what it's like to work with Saw. But again, if you're not gonna,
it needed a little bit more clarity.
And this is my preference for clarity in your storytelling. For Luthen to get involved in the insurgency that Dedra made on Gorman, does that make the galaxy seem really small to you? Because Dedra kind of makes that insurgency happen through Cyril, and then Luthen finds out about it and sends Cassian to get involved.
It's a year later, so I don't think so.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah.
Right on. And then the biggest one, this really carries through all 6 episodes, but I want your thoughts because we haven't talked about it yet. The Bail Organa recast. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think Benjamin Platt is a great actor.
Yeah.
I also have read that he and Jimmy Smits are friends. So I'm actually cool with it. Like,
Yeah.
I don't need a face replacement every time. I've been against the face replacement from the beginning. It's cool to see young Luke, but also you could also just give me a new actor, and then I don't have to do the whole like, oh, is that, isn't it? Like, I can actually just kind of enjoy the thing and not be like, oh, this is so crazy the whole time. And I think he did a great job. I think the character is there. The through line of the character, no, there were no problems for me. So I'm here for it. What about you?
Well, I feel like almost exactly the same. It was funny. Jenny was coming in and out of the room while I was watching, as usually happens, and she goes, "Huh? Why didn't they do the CGI face thing?"
Oh, really?
And I was like, "Would you prefer that?" She goes, "No, but that's what Star Wars does, right?" I thought that was really funny. So I liked his performance. I could go either way. I was annoyed at first, but he crushed it, and he looks a lot like him, and it's not the end of the world.
Look, you give a guy a goatee, he could be Bail Organa.
Well, I'm not gonna go that far.
No, I'm kidding.
But I thought his performance was really, really, really good, and I hope he gets more to do in the episodes that come out tonight.
Yeah.
But Zach, discussion points for the first 3 episodes before we get into the last 3 episodes.
Yeah. Cool to see the planet from episode 7, Dakar. Do you think that they knew about it because of old Rebellion archives, or do you think that's just kind of an odd base planet?
There's probably someone that carried over from the Partisans into the typical Rebel Alliance, and so those files just exist somewhere that Leia found out about and goes, cool, we haven't been there in about 30 years, so let's go hide there.
Yeah. I've already talked about it, but the 2 Gorman massacres I think is very interesting. Something I found out that is fun. Have you ever played The Witcher games? Well, Dedra is one of the leads in the Witcher games. She plays Yennefer, and it was like, when I learned that, I was like, oh, like my brain kind of did a weird, like, that's so interesting and weird. I think you also had the same idea. Were the people on the TV inspired by the holiday special and their crazy costumes, which I think we both agree that they were. And then last thing, because we already talked about Benjamin Platt's excellent performance as Bail Organa, is this why Saw Gerrera has a gas mask, or is there Rhydon in his gas mask?
I think there's Rhydonium in his gas mask. I used to think it was oxygen, but I think it's Rhydonium.
Yeah.
I forgot to mention earlier, I think it's interesting and dumb. It's both that he calls the Rhydonium sister, because deep Star Wars fans know that Stila Gerrera was kind of his conscience, and she got killed in the Clone Wars, and ever since then it has been a slow slide into insanity. For Saw Gerrera. So I thought it was interesting and kind of dumb at the same time.
Well, discussion questions for the last 3 episodes.
So the quote-unquote the Tarkin massacre. I have a bone to pick with Tony Gilroy. Because there was a quote where Tony said he wanted to, quote, clear up this whole Gorman massacre thing. That people were confused as to what the Gorman massacre thing is. And that people didn't know what it was. So, the only people that were confused about the Gorman Massacre were people that had never heard of it, because they haven't watched Rebels, and they haven't read the 1990 Rebel Alliance source book where it came from. So, what we got is definitely more interesting, cinematic, terrifying, haunting, memorable in every way than Grand Moff Tarkin landing a ship on like 500 people or so.
Yeah.
But so, Tony, you didn't clear anything up. You just made 2 Gorman massacres. So now it's like, when people say the Gorman massacre, they're going to be like, well, which one are you talking about? Right? But also...
Well, one's much bigger in scale, I think.
One's much bigger in scale. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. But to that same point, do you not think that if somebody landed a ship on a plaza full of people, it would be more of their history than just putting up a statue and standing there and talking about it sometimes?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Obviously,
I mean, they do talk about it a lot. Like the
it
bellhop
is
talks about it.
yeah, that my dad was there and whatever, and it's part of our history. And I, but it's also interesting because going off of again legends, but then was brought into canon. Tarkin landing a ship on a plaza full of people was what broke the camel's back and had Mon Mothma decide, like, I'm done with this. So now for that to happen almost 20 years ago, and then this happened, and that's what does it for her, I feel two ways about it. Number one, they made it so much more terrifying that I buy it. But number two, it's also kind of like, okay, so this was like a well-orchestrated political coup where you could make it look either way. That was transparent. I'm landing a ship on people and crushing them.
Yeah.
So how did that not make you mad? You know what I mean?
Also, if it happened,
but we
so
might
long
get that
ago,
story.
Did it happen pre-Empire?
No, it happened. I say 20 years ago.
No.
It happened. I think what they said is that it happened shortly after the rise of the Empire. So I'm wondering if we'll get that. I hope we get that in the Reign of the Empire book series.
Yeah.
Right?
Hopefully.
Because I would like to, you'd want to talk about wanting to clear things up. I would like to now know that story, because also when you just hear, well, he landed his ship on 500 people, that sounds kind of darkly, like, funny. It's like, so what's the rest of that story? They're like, I'm just going to land my ship on him.
Yeah.
Into actual discussion questions. Bix says, I've felt it before. When she's talking to Cassian about the Force healer.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a casual, Force-sensitive lore drop? That Bix has the Force?
I don't think so. I think it's more... because everyone should have access to the Force, and I feel like we're going back to that canon-wise, not about midichlorians, more about anyone can have access.
Yeah.
So I think it's just more of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, anybody can have it, but like, oh my gosh, Hu Yang tells Sabine on Ahsoka, you are the worst candidate in the history of the Jedi.
Yeah.
So, but for someone to be able to literally feel it without any belief, that might
maybe
lean towards Force sensitivity. I just thought it was cool.
It is cool.
But tying back into Yavin, the growth of Yavin in 2 years is wild. That is actually crazy. For this show especially. Because this is all about showing the crunchy details and making things take a while. And in 2 years, it went from the two dumbest groups of rebels that we have ever seen, literally shooting at each other, and there's maybe 30 of them, to we have an entire base with ships and people from everywhere. And how did it grow that quickly?
Oh, I don't think those two groups started it.
Oh, sure, but
Yeah.
I'm like, where did all these people come from?
But when Cassian comes off, we do see the temple that is already there, so I think the temple's already there.
Well, yes,
yeah.
and that's extended canon, going back to Legends, those are old Sith temples.
Oh, interesting.
And the spirit of the Master Exar Kun is entombed in there. I'm sure that's not canon anymore. But I like it in a way because one of my gripes with the show previously was that I thought they were giving the message that Luthen is the reason the Rebel Alliance exists. And I think this is their way of saying, no, he's a reason for a lot of it.
Yeah.
But there's all of these ships and people that came galaxy-wide to Yavin.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, there's new recruits every day. Like Vel's
I guess they do
training
say that, yeah.
recruits,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So, Bail Organa staying on Coruscant.
Yeah.
So, there are two speeches that Mon Mothma gives canonically, right? There's the one that she gives that we've finally seen on Andor, and that's always been canon. They acknowledge it in Rebels, that she gives a speech in the Senate that gets her declared an enemy of the state.
Yeah.
And then she gets rescued by the Ghost Crew and goes and gives the speech that begins the Rebel Alliance, where it's a formal declaration of war, and all these rebel cells come together. You see it on screen. There's always been two speeches. But when Mon gives her speech on Rebels, which is immediately after this episode, Bail is on Yavin with General Jan Dodonna. Like, clearly. Like, he's standing around the war table watching the hologram. So is this a mild retcon, or did he change his mind?
I don't think it's that. I think he's pulling double duty.
Just for him to say, I have to stay
you on Yavin
in a year. I'll see you on Yavin in a year. We're not ready. I have to stall. I have to work in the system. You could just say that he's on a ship somewhere watching her broadcast or in a safe house somewhere, but he's with General Jan Dodonna from episode 4, standing right next to him, watching her speech and smiling. So it's just a mild retcon.
I think so.
I think.
Yeah.
But I was like, Anyway, last one, and then I'll give it over to you. Excuse me. This was kind of a dislike, but I wanted to talk to you about it. Why is Mon distrusting of Erskine after she finds out he's been her bodyguard with Luthen? I don't get that. I know that Luthen killed her childhood friend after he had become a drunkard and a liability and was, not all but, was threatening to spill the beans on her and the Rebel Alliance. So Luthen was like, okay, there's only one way to deal with this. And then from on to be like, I don't care that you've taken care of me for 2 years. I don't trust you. Leave me alone. I was like, what? I want a bodyguard.
I don't think it's that. I think it's just somebody lying to you for 2 years.
I guess
and it's we started this friendship, and then you were like, I'm going to work with the guy that you don't love, who's pretty radical, and who you butt heads with a lot to keep you safe. I think it's just because he goes back to being her attaché right after saving her. I think it's just a realization that someone's been lying to you for 2 years and being like, okay, you need to step away.
I suppose
I can't handle that you've lied to me for 2 years. Because you've lied to me for 2 years. I need space from you right now.
It's an over-emotional reaction in a very stressful time.
Yeah.
So, and ultimately, really what it is it serves the narrative purpose of Erskine not being at her side the whole time, so that Cassian and Mon can meet, and we can have our two leads that we've been watching, for 2 seasons now come together, and it's just on them.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
But what about your discussion points?
Yeah. Let me go back up. Okay. I've said it when we watched Skeleton Crew. Why are Star Wars rebels always French? The French Rebellion episode in Skeleton Crew, we get it on Ryloth. We got a lot of French revolutionaries.
I liked this one because they talked about how they basically wanted to make Space France, and that Gore is a language that they made up that is based on French phonetics.
Yeah.
Well, we've been getting a lot of France.
Yeah. This one I believe the most because this one does feel like they did such a good job at creating a culture, both on Chandrilla and here. The show did a really good job at creating culture. My next discussion, it's really cool to see full scenes in other languages in Star Wars that aren't galactic basic. How did you bump into that at all, or were you like?
No, I loved it. I ate it up. I thought it was awesome.
Cool. Because I know some people don't like subtitles, but I watch everything with subtitles because I am old. And then how do you, it was a discussion question, you kind of answered it already, but how do you feel about Force healers? Because
awesome.
You really like it.
But go ahead, finish your thought.
I bumped into it a little bit. I was like, okay, why wouldn't Luke take that person and train them? Why wouldn't, if there's these Force healers out there, when Luke restarts the Order, why isn't he like, hey, you guys are all Force sensitive, you're literally healing with the Force, let me train you guys?
Well, I think they make a point of how it's just the one. It's just the one lady, and there's all those people kind of around her, following her, almost kind of living in her wake, almost like a cult.
Yeah.
Right? But also, it's a big galaxy.
It is.
And there can be a lot of different things going on. And one of the things that I feel Star Wars has done poorly as a whole is not expand on the Jedi and the Sith. There could be and should be and are other Force traditions that I would like to see their traditions.
Yeah.
Right? So I totally buy someone that just instinctually is a healer in the Force. I hope we never get a story that turns out she's an Order 66 survivor.
Yeah.
She's definitely old enough to where that would make sense, but so's Maz Kanata, right? Yeah. And Maz Kanata is 1,000 years old, and she can use the Force. So, I don't know. I think it's a huge galaxy.
Yeah.
Right?
That's true.
I would love a story of Luke and her meeting and her
comic.
teaching him something. Yeah, that would be fantastic.
That'd be cool.
But yeah, I liked it. But
cool.
Yeah.
Did you think that for a split second, because I had this thought that Cyril was going to become a rebel?
Literally a split second.
Until he sees Andor.
Well, but no, even before, literally in that moment, a split second, and then I thought, no, this is a character that he's not going to flip on a dime like that. He has lost faith in everything he actually believed in. I think he's going to walk away and go be a farmer.
Yeah.
Just walk away from everything. Like, he walks away from Dedra. Not with hate in his heart, with indifference. He just says, good luck, and leaves.
Yeah.
So I think that was someone that was getting ready to ditch. That's my take.
Yeah. Well, bringing up our Andor character death bingo, did you think that this was the episode where Dedra died?
We forget how tense it is to watch Star Wars stories with characters that we don't know if they live or die.
Yeah.
Because 2 or 3 different times Cassian's about to take the shot and something distracts him. Last one being, Cyril tackling him through a door.
Yeah.
But
such a great moment.
And literally, I forgot to say this in the likes, but I love the detail of Cassian literally sees her, lines up the shot, exhales, is
yep.
The next moment is the trigger, right? All the breath is gone, and then he gets tackled.
Mm-hmm.
It literally, had Cyril taken half a second longer, Dedra's probably dead.
Yeah.
Dedra is dead. But, well, and I guess we can say officially that, speaking of the character death bingo, I was wrong, dog.
Yeah.
As far as we know, Bix lives.
Yeah.
We've really only marked off 3.
3, yeah. Brasso,
in 9 episodes.
Cinta, and Cyril.
Yeah. So,
for now.
We'll see. We still got 3 to go.
Willimon might not make it.
I think there's no way. We'll get there. We'll get to. Let's do closing thoughts here in a minute, and then we'll do our predictions.
Last discussion question, because we've talked about a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
Can we talk about how scary the K2 droids are?
The KX droids.
The KX droids.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yes.
Holy crap!
Yes.
They take a person and throw them across the whole shebang. Holy crap!
Absolutely terrifying. I have seen people complain that they're shown to be so impervious to blaster bolts, and then K2SO gets killed by a blaster bolt, and there's one on Jeddah that Jin just guns down no problem.
Yeah.
And then K2SO's like, how did you know that wasn't me?
Yeah.
Right? But I think that, number one, it could be as simple as once they're mass-produced, the quality goes down.
True.
Right? And number two, K2 only gets killed after he's been shot 1,000 times.
Yeah.
When he gets killed, you see the marks everywhere. But yeah, they were so scary and so cool, and I love them. I think they're awesome.
Yeah.
Also, lore tidbit that I had forgotten about: after the Clone Wars, I guarantee you they didn't take this into account when they were making Andor, because they don't care. But it is canon that the Empire outlawed battle droids after the Clone Wars were over. But then they go and they start making their own.
Cool.
So yeah.
All right. Closing thoughts on Andor 4 through 9.
So don't carry your past. Don't carry it. Gather as you go, because there's some place that you need to be. So pick it up, but don't let it drag you down. Right? That's really Cassian's arc in these episodes.
Yeah.
But then Mon Mothma's speech, this is the quote that gets me. Everybody shows the death of truth is the ultimate victory of evil. What got me more was immediately after. When truth leaves us, when we let it slip away, when it is ripped from our hands, we become vulnerable to the appetite of whatever monster screams the loudest. If there is anything worth fighting for in your life, it is truth. Not opinion, not belief, truth. And objective truth is rare, and it is hard to come by. But when you see people actively spreading lies or just disinformation, you have to speak against that. There's a lot of people that think that they all know what they're writing about on this show and who they're talking about. And while that may be true, we have to remember these episodes were written 2.5, if not 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Gilroy said that the unfortunate thing about these shows and the way we wrote it and the history that we pulled from is you could look at any time in the last 6,000 years of recorded human history and it would line up with things that were taking place. So I'm not trying to say that this show is adding to fear-mongering. I would hope that you are aware of the parallels, but objective truth is important. Mm-hmm. And that is the quote that broke me, and I just kind of sat teary-eyed for the rest of the episode. So real quick, before I give it over to your closing thoughts, because if you can't tell, I loved these episodes, those last two especially. So why did I like this so much? Why, when I have been so critical of Andor, and I've been talking about how the tone doesn't work and how it's a little too depressing and too adult, and what people always say to me, you have said it, and I'm not trying to dunk on you, it's what everybody always says. And you said it more eloquently than this, right? But everybody is always like, oh, well, you just like stuff with Jedi. Okay.
I didn't say that.
You said something like, you asked if Rogue One was a story that I don't like for the same reasons, right? And I talked about how that story moves, right? But everybody always said, or no, it was, no, I got it wrong. What you talked about how it's the same thing but different. The down-to-earth nature of this show, that it is so grounded, that there are no Force sensitives, that this is the B team, right? That it's a smaller story. Everybody always says that. Here's some smaller Star Wars stories that I like. And I'm not coming at you. I'm coming at everybody that talks to me about this. So here's some smaller stories that I like. Bad Batch, Battlefront 2 campaign, D-Squad from Clone Wars, Solo, Lost Stars, Rebel Rising, Dark Forces, and a lot more. Those don't change the tone of Star Wars, right? Those are Star Wars stories about the B-Team that I unapologetically love. So was this. This moves. This had weight. This had drama. And it wasn't just a slow, to me, a slow build-up to a mild payoff, right? Larger-than-life things took place.
Yeah.
And because the entire internet loves these two episodes. And I guess I am knocking a lot of the rest of the show while praising this. But had the whole series been more in line with these last two, you never would have heard a lick of criticism from me.
Yeah.
Never once. It's the withholding stakes and withholding consequences and elevating really, really mundane things that I'm like, okay, Last of Us is cool, but it's not Star Wars.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So anyway, them's my closing thoughts. What about you, dude?
Yeah, I mean, you said it pretty eloquently with the quotes. I think we are finally in the feeling of Star Wars with these last 3 episodes. It is fast, it is intense, but it still has great character moments, great speeches. It's kind of the best of both worlds from the Andor Season 1 and the rest of Star Wars. I really, really like this. I hope they continue. I hope it doesn't drop the bag in these next 3 episodes, but I don't think it will. It should just continue to ramp up. But yeah, I'm excited for the finale. We'll talk about it next week, and hopefully Tales of the Underworld if we have time to. But yeah, my closing thoughts on this are, be good to each other. If there's anything that we're learning from the show and in the world right now is that we need a little hope and kindness. And be good to each other.
Be good to each other. Don't spread misinformation.
Yep.
But, so real quick, about the episodes that premiere tonight, do you have any predictions about the last 3 hours of Andor?
If we don't get a bunch of K2, I'm gonna be real mad. If K2 is not in every single moment of these next 3 episodes, not just mad for myself, but mad for Alan Tudyk. He deserves to be featured, the lead of these next 3 episodes. I hope it's a lot of great K2 moments. I think we're gonna see the fall of Luthen. I hope we see the fall of Luthen. I don't know what you're gonna. I really don't know what they're gonna do, because you can't blow up a Death Star. You can't find the Death Star plans. I'm kind of like, this kind of felt like it could have been the finale. So
Yeah.
I'm really curious to see what is next. But I need K2 in it, and I need lots of quippy, slightly rude K2. What about you?
So, taking into account what some would consider spoilers, because I'm going to mention some shots from the trailers that we haven't seen yet. Mm-hmm. So if you don't want to hear this, skip to the outro. It'll be the next timestamp beneath us. I'll go fast. But the handful of shots that we haven't seen, there's Saw Gerrera on Jeddah. There is K2SO slapping an Imperial officer and them going flying off of whatever bridge. And there is Dedra in Luthen's art shop with a blaster drawn, pointing at someone off screen. My biggest prediction, I think it would make a lot of sense
if she finds
to
Axis.
see see Dedra finally track down Axis.
Yeah.
And then what it is I think, so here's my prediction, because here's how I would write it, I guess, is Luthen plays dumb for a while. And he's just he's moving in the art shop as she's circling with the blaster, and we know what he's going for, and she doesn't, and he drops the facade, shows her who he is, and then hits a bomb that kills both of them.
Oh, cool.
That's my prediction. And I have read no leaks. I know nothing. So if I'm right, I'm going to be like, and I'm going to do all the dances. But that'd be how I would do it.
Yeah.
And give him some really dope line as he just ends her. But I think we're going to get a lot of Melshi. I think we're going to get a lot of K2. My biggest prediction is that this will be a slow burn that leads directly into Rogue One. I think, because the other shot that we saw but haven't seen yet is the Death Star being constructed and Krennic watching.
True.
So this is probably just going to be.
I hope we get a lot of Krennic these episodes too.
My guess is this is going to be the Rogue One prequel arc. We are going to fill in every single gap that we haven't yet, because they have said that the last shot leads directly into Cassian walking somewhere. I think going to go leave for the Ring of Kafrene.
Yeah.
To ultimately kill, I forget his name, the guy with the bad arm.
Do you think we see Mads Mikkelsen?
That would be really cool.
That would be really cool.
The one that I would want to see is the pilot, Bodhi Rook.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I would love to see Bodhi decide, what is that? I want to see him decide to be the rebel. If they can afford him. If they can get him. But it's not like they wouldn't recast. But we haven't seen anything of him, so I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me if that's just all off screen.
Yeah.
Tivik is the guy that Andian kills. Andian? What? Cassian Andor. Man,
Andian Cassador.
One of these days, we're going to go live, and it's just going to be...
That's my next RPG character.
Andian Cassador. All right, man. But yeah, hey, I hope you all enjoyed this conversation. We went super deep on 6 episodes of Andor, but we've only got one more week that we can talk about Andor, and either next week or after, we'll talk about Tales of the Underworld and all the other Star Wars that is coming.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, Zach, let the people know how they can find us and how they can get involved with what they just watched.
Yeah, you can email us at forceofothersradio@gmail.com. You can follow us on Instagram at forceofothers podcast. No,
I think it's just Force of Others.
I think it's just Force of Others. And then on YouTube, you could click that like, that subscribe, that notification bell. That really helps. And we post all the time. Is it podcast?
You were right. It's Force of Others podcast.
Yeah, Force of Others podcast on Instagram.
The link's in the doobly-doo below.
Yeah. But yeah. And the best way also is to get into our comments. We are there. We will respond actively. But yeah. That is how you find us. And without further ado, unless you have anything else, Matt,
I think we're done, man.
I'm gonna do it this time.
Oh, okay.
Because I know you usually do it. And remember, the Force of Others will be with you.
Always.
The Force of Others, a Star Wars podcast.